So right after Shabbos is over, in order to be allowed to do any work and in order to praise Hashem for Shabbos, we say Havdala. Before saying Havdala at home on a cup of wine, we say Havdala already in shul in davening. Question is, let's say you want to do something before you daven. So we're all familiar with the Baruch Hamal and Kirsh Shachel. You say that sentence. Blessed is the one who separates between the holy and the not holy. And you say that sentence, then you are allowed to do work.
As long as the time.
As long as it's the right time. Yeah, actually, the Alter discusses a situation where, let's say, you're not going to be able to make Havdalah after Shabbos. You let him make Havdalah during the day and Dav Ma'ariv during the day, and then they say Shema with the brachas after Shabbos is over. He says, don't do it because people will think it's like a little weird, whatever. But the words the Alter Rebbe uses are very interesting. He says that you're supposed to accompany the king. After Shabbos, you're supposed to accompany the Shabbos. How do you accompany the Shabbos? It's by davening Ma'ariv or by saying Havdalah. However, if you want to work, then it's sufficient to do a minimal accompanying the king by saying Baruch HaMavdil. But then he says, a Baal Nefesh, someone's on a higher level, they shouldn't just daven Ma'ariv, they should also wait till after Ma'ariv to Va'at HaKadosh. And he says, anyone who does work before that will not see any... Right. Anyone who does that work he's doing before he davens, he won't see any blessing for that work that he does. What if?
Because we need to add from Kodesh Lechor.
Well, that's something else. That's something else. That's the time you're doing it. The time you're supposed to extend Shabbos to the weekday. True. Then there's something else, Havdalah. Besides you add a time, there's something else for Havdalah. So the Alter Rebbe says that a Baal Nefesh is careful to wait till At HaKadosh. If you're not a Baal Nefesh, so you could do it earlier. However, he says, what if you talked about a situation about someone lighting the candles in the shul? If you're lighting the candles in the shul, it's a mitzvah. Light the candles in the shul, he says.
You're sending the computer for the...
That's what caught my attention.
We
sent the video to be go on right after Reb Shmuel Baruch Shem Tzedek every week the video that we watched for the Rebbe. It's up. So it says over there, if you're doing a mitzvah that's to help people, lighting the candles in the shul or setting up the video for people who want Torah in public with the Rebbe's video, so then it says you should at least wait till after Baruch. Alter puts it in parentheses, which means that Alter had a doubt about it. I don't know what was the doubt, but it seems that it's still better to wait till after Baruch Hu before see Baruch HaMavdil and wait till after Baruch Hu to set up the video.
Because if you light before the time, you actually lighting you hurting those Reshaim that they enjoy the Shabbat.
No, it's true.
You're adding the fire before time, and then it's like extinguishing.
Right. It says that the neshamas don't go back to Gehenim. Chas Hashem, those who Baruch Hashem because of Shabbos, they're free from Gehenim. They don't go back till the last shul finishes their seder.
Exactly.
The 62 minutes.
Rabbi Reber Baruch Hashem has instituted something that we are. I think we have the classification of the last shul in town. Baruch Hashem. Not yet.
Rabbi Schuster was the same thing.
The same thing. Okay. All right. Oh, I don't know about that.
New
Okay.
York also, a bunch of shoes. 63 minutes is the time.
Okay. Anyway, so
I can't take credit that I made it up.
okay. So then you come home, and there's another thing of doing. You're supposed to accompany the king. What are you supposed to accompany the king after Shabbos? What are you supposed to accompany the king besides Havdalah? Lava Malka, but it says something interesting in Shulchan Aruch that's emphasized. It's not just eating the meal of Lava Malka; it's setting the table. And the words in Shulchan Aruch are you're supposed to set the table as if it's going to be a full meal. And even though technically, according to halacha, it's enough just to eat fruit or whatever, but the table's supposed to be set like, wow, it's like Friday night. It's like a special meal is going to happen. The Rebbe was very careful to wash Motzei Shabbos, and I think the Rebbe said the words, this is the meal of Melech HaMashiach, das in Hebrew, in Aramaic, das is Melech HaMashiach, before having the meal of Motzei Shabbos, because it's called the meal of David HaMelech, because every Motzei Shabbos, David HaMelech would celebrate the fact that he survived Shabbos, because he knew he was going to pass away on Shabbos. Yas Hashem, Eideni Hashem Kitzi, let me know, when will I stop to exist? Hashem said on Shabbos, therefore he would celebrate every Motzei Shabbos. Anyways, but what I wanted to focus on today was two other things. That was just the intro to the main issues I want to discuss today. What I want to discuss today was the bracha we say on the fire. There's two unusual things about this bracha. Number one, the language of the bracha. Blessed is the one who gives many lights to the fire. And number two is the fact that when we say this bracha, we do not hold the candle. When we make a bracha on the psamim, we hold the psamim. When we make a bracha on the fire, we don't hold the fire. Why is it when we make a bracha on the fire, we don't hold the fire? When we make a bracha on the psamim, we hold the psamim. And why? What's it?
You hold the psalm in the left hand or the right hand? You put the wine down. What do you do?
The Rebbe would put down the cup and he would make a bracha on the eish. He would put the cup down and make a bracha on the psamim. And hold the psalm in his right hand.
There's an opinion that you're not supposed to let the cup off your hand.
Right.
You could do the psalm on left. Yeah. Even when you do the candle, you can raise your hand, but you don't take it because as long as you are holding it, you're pushing that
Interesting.
So
the Rebbe actually had this custom for many years until 1965. The Rebbe also kept this custom as well. I know that changed until 1965, but that's the Rebbe custom Rebbe did in public. I learned something today I didn't know is that the Rebbe was careful to use a beeswax candle for Havdala. It says in Shulchan Aruch that according to Kabbalah, those who know the reason use beeswax. It says you shouldn't use foul-smelling candles, but then there are those who use beeswax. But beeswax is sha'ava.
Yeah, of course. And you have to make.
How do you say bee in Farsi? Very good. Okay, so what's the meaning of the word? So let's go quickly. What's the meaning of the bracha of me'eresh, creates many lights of the fire? So it says that we're thanking Hashem not just that there's fire, we're thanking Hashem for many colors in the fire. Hashem created a beautiful thing, fire. There's many colors in the fire. According to Beis Shammai, you make a bracha ma'or ha'esh, but with halachas like Beis Hillel, we make the bracha for the many candles in the fire. Yes, many lights in the fire.
But we don't get the same type of hana from the candles we get from spices.
We're gonna get there. Okay, so it says in Shulchan Aruch, it's considered a mitzvah min ha'muchar. It's considered to be a mitzvah done in the best way. To have more than one candle. One candle is kosher because even one candle has many colors, but it's considered to be a higher level of mitzvah to use many candles.
Unless you have
What's the reason you have to use many candles? So there's an argument between the Alter Rebbe and the Mishnah Berurah. The Alter Rebbe, let's go to the Mishnah Berurah first. The Mishnah Berurah says, when you have many candles, oira rab, there's a lot of light, and therefore it's considered to be a mitzvah and a muvchar. It's considered to be better to take a bracha on this in a similar way. It's better to take a bracha on a whole fruit instead of a fruit that's cut up. So therefore, you're supposed to take a bracha on many candles, or a torch. That's right. The word is a torch. Yeah. What about a lantern? So Mishnah Berurah discusses a lantern. There's different opinions about a lantern. On the one hand, some opinions say, a lantern is even better. Because a lantern has a lot of light. It's one candle. But the whole point is to have a lot of light. So if you have a lantern which gives you more light than a regular candle, it's even better. Others say no, it's not the point to have a lantern. The point is to have many candles. The important thing is to have an important candle. What makes an important candle? Two parts. One is there's many wicks, there's many sources of light, and the other is that there are many fires. So if you have a lantern doesn't work. What if you have another problem with the lantern is that you're seeing it through a glass? Many opinions say you're not allowed to say a bracha on the fire through a glass. They take it out of the glass. So the Mishnah Berurah's opinion is that the value of the torch is that there are many. It's a lot of light. The Alter Rebbe says that's not the reason. The reason why you're supposed to use a torch is a whole different reason. The reason is, he says, is because the language of the bracha, the language we say in the bracha is ma'orei ha'esh, lights in the plural. Since we use the words lights in the plural, there has to be more than one light. So it's not because it's considered more important, it's just because of the language of the bracha. And there's a big difference between these two opinions. It's possible that the reason why the Alter Rebbe, Meir Ashkenazi, he was watching a shir on this from him, he said it's possible that Alter Rebbe's opinion is because that if the reason why there was a preference to use more a torch rather than a regular candle was because of its great light, then it wouldn't be considered a more choice mitzvah to do it that way. It would be a halachic obligation. Just like you have an halachic obligation, like a bracha on a whole fruit, there should have been a halachic obligation, like a bracha on a torch, but not a halachic obligation. If you only have one candle, it's fine. It's just a mitzvah, it's a more choice mitzvah, take a bracha on a torch. So what exactly is a torch? So based upon these two opinions, there are a lot of things which would be a torch according to one opinion, and wouldn't be a torch according to another opinion. Let's say you have a cup, and the cup has a cup of oil, and there's 2 wicks in this cup. So according to everybody, that would be considered a torch. Why? Because you have 2 sources of light, and the 2 sources of light are in the same cup. So it's the cup unites the 2 sources. So it's considered one entity. These 2 sources of light have become one. What if you have 2 candles, and 2 candles are united with a fire? You put the 2 candles together. According to Mishnah Berurah, it wouldn't work. Why wouldn't it work? Because in order for it to be considered an important candle, what makes it important? 2 things. Number 1 is that there's 2 sources of light, and the other is that there are 2 lights, and they're united as one. So if you had a Havdala candle where there are 2 candles which are becoming one, so then that's important. But if they're 2 completely separate candles, these 2 completely separate candles aren't considered an important torch because they're separate. And they may have 2 fires, but they're not. It's not the candle isn't a double candle. When you have a cup and there's 2 wicks,
It's one candle.
you have 2 candles and you put them together. According to Mishnah Berurah, wouldn't be good. Why wouldn't it be good? Because you don't have an important candle. You have 2 fires, but your candle isn't important. Each of these candles are they're separate candles. But what makes them into one torch? The fact that the fires are touching isn't enough. It has to be an important candle. What makes it an important candle is that there's 2 actual candles that are woven together. If you have an Havdala candle, so you have
taking 2 candles, showers of candles, and holding them together. That's not it.
That's not it. And not only that,
According to that opinion.
according to Mishnah Berurah, and actually people don't practically. Everyone follows the opinion of the Alter Rebbe, and the people do use 2 candles, even though Mishnah Berurah says that wouldn't work. What if you have 2 wicks coming out of one candle? According to the Alter Rebbe, as long as you have 2, the point is the point is there should be 2 fires. So although the Pri Megadim Moshe Yisrael say that it wouldn't be good to have 2 fires coming out of one candle, it would seem that if you don't have anything else, according to the Alter Rebbe, it would be a mitzvah and a muvchar because at least you have 2 lights. But according to the Mishnah Berurah, you have to have 2 things. You have to have 2 sources of light, and they have to be connected to each other, and that produces 2 lights. What if you have an Havdala candle, and you made Havdala, and now the Havdala candle has been extinguished? You poured the actually don't pour. You dip the Havdala candle into the wine, and now you want to relight it. And when you relight it, you don't pour the wine on the Havdala candle. You dip it into it.
This has just changed my. When did that come about?
You learned that 2 weeks ago. I don't know why you have the same reaction then. Okay.
I wasn't here 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I guess that's why. So when you put the Havdalah candle out and you put it into the wine, then the next guy making Havdalah may not be successful in lighting all of the wicks because it's wet. Let's say that only the 2 extreme corners of the candle are lit and they're not united. According to the Mishnah Berurah, you have a problem. You don't have 2 fires connecting to each other. You have a candle that has 2 sources of light, but you don't have 2 lights coming together. But according to Alter Rebbe, that the whole point of having 2 lights is because of the language of the bracha Beir Area Eish. You have 2 lights and they're for one candle. It's fine. The fire doesn't have to touch each other. If you have 2 candles, so what makes them connected is that their fires are connected to each other. But if you have 1 candle or 1 Havdalah candle with there's 2 sources of light, doesn't matter if they touch each other or not. Okay, let's go now to the holding the candle.
Right, when you twist those 2 the wicks, that's considered as a one.
The 2 wicks coming from 1 candle.
No, okay.
It's
If
talking
they are
about the regular Havdalah candle, right?
yeah,
He's talking about the
regular
regular
candle, there's-
woven,
it's twisted.
woven together.
There's 2 different candles which are woven together.
No.
There are other kinds that I understand.
Some of them.
Right. Some of them are one thing that has 2 wicks out of 1 candle. According to Mishnah Berurah and Mishnah Yisrael and Pri Megadim, it wouldn't be good.
It's not good.
According to some opinions, it wouldn't be good.
Wow.
But according to the Alter Rebbe, well, it's kosher because even 1 candle is kosher. According to Alter Rebbe, it seems that if you don't have anything else, that'll be better than using one candle.
But everyone using it.
No, you're not. Everyone uses the one that's woven together when you have multiple.
Everyone uses the
No,
beeswax
they
candle.
use
What are you
it-
talking
they use
about?
it
The new
that
thing I just learned. It was
from
beeswax.
From one spot.
Okay, let's now go to the holding the candle versus and why you don't hold the candle and why you do hold the psalm. Why do we hold the psalm and why don't we hold the candle? The reason you hold the psalm is very simple, as you mentioned before, Beryl, that whenever you're making a bracha and you're enjoying the thing that you're making a bracha on, the brich sananin, you have to hold in your hand. You make a bracha on an apple in your hand. You make a bracha on a piece of steak, holding the fork is considered holding in your hand. But that's regarding the psalmim. You're going to enjoy the fragrance of the psalm. Make a bracha when you hold in your hand. However, what's the reason to make a bracha on the fire? There's two reasons to make a bracha on the fire. Reason number one, the main reason, is we're thanking Hashem for creating fire. We're thanking Hashem when Hashem created fire. After Shabbos, when Adam and Chava were scared that the snake is going to attack them, and they were scared that Hashem wouldn't be with them anymore, Hashem gave Adam and Rishon this idea of putting these two sticks together, these two rocks together, and producing fire. So we thank Hashem at the exact moment when the fire was created. Why do we thank Hashem at the exact moment that fish was created? Only fire. Because every Motzei Shabbos, it's similar to the creation of fire. Because on Shabbos we don't use fire. So in every Motzei Shabbos there is a renewal of the fire, of that experience of the creation of fire. So what are we thanking Hashem for? Are we thanking Hashem for the fire that we have now? We're thanking Hashem for the fire that was created then. The bracha, Ma'iri Ha'esh, the bracha is actually in the creation of fire. Boirei Ma'iri Ha'esh, who creates the fire. Since the bracha is on the creation of fire, so therefore you're not making a bracha that you're enjoying. Making a bracha on the thanking Hashem that you created fire. If you would hold it, it would seem that you're not thanking Hashem for the creation of fire. You're just thanking Hashem for your usage of fire. And since the original nusach of the bracha, the purpose of this bracha is to thank Hashem for the creation of fire, the original creation of fire, we happen to do it this time because that's when we experience a renewal of the usage of fire. But the bracha is not about our usage of fire, it's really about the creation of fire. And therefore, we don't hold it in our hands because it's not like a bracha of enjoyment, it's a bracha of praise and thanks to Hashem that they created fire originally. And that's also why the language of bracha is boire, he creates the fire. All right, any questions, comments? All right, Chazak Baruch.